What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Art of Show. We're hanging out with Eric Fan today. He's an amazing illustrator, and we're talking with him about how he went from creating t-shirts on Threadless to flying airplanes with super famous astronauts.
Welcome to The Art of Show, where we feature the people who are creating amazing stories for kids. Join us as we chat with children's book illustrators and authors, storyboardists, animators, and more. Now, their art might be for kids, but aren't we all just kids at heart? And here's your host, Brandon.
All right, what's up, guys? So we are hanging out with an incredible author and illustrator today, featuring an amazing book. It's called The Night Gardener. Came out last year. If you guys have not checked it out, it's pretty awesome. Actually, if you're on Amazon a good bit and you're looking at the kids book section, like I pretty much am every day, it's usually showing up as one of the best of 2016. It's an amazing book, a great story, and it's his debut author and illustrator work. So it's pretty cool. Eric is actually doing it with his brother Terry, which is a lot of fun. So if you've ever wondered what it'd be like to work on a project with your brother, this is a good one. And a lot of times I've talked with folks that maybe they are author illustrators with their brothers or sisters, and one person will be the author and maybe the other person is the illustrator. But in this case, they're both the author and the illustrator. So as you can imagine, that has a bunch of different things that maybe you normally wouldn't deal with, and it's a lot of fun to talk with. But yeah, his story is amazing. His books are amazing, and we also get into The Darkest Dark, which is super close to my heart because that has to do with Chris Hadfield, who was a really famous astronaut, was on the International Space Station. And if you ever saw the YouTube video Space Oddity with David Bowie as like a music video with a guy in space, that was him. And so he has an amazing book, Chris does, but this is actually his childhood that they illustrate. And so we get into that one as well. And what's really cool that I really want you guys to take away from this story is Eric didn't start out super hardcore in illustration. He talks about all his day jobs that he had, whether it's construction, and he eventually got into graphic design seriously with Threadless, where you can kind of submit your designs. They get voted up, and then they get turned into t-shirts. But what's real neat is how he transitioned from there to eventually working with someone super famous like Chris Hadfield, even flying little Cessnas with him, with an astronaut right next to you. So it's really cool, a really cool story. And his books are amazing that he does with his brother. So before we dive into the interview, though, I want to let you guys know that I have a book coming out in a couple weeks, actually mid-February, that I would love for you to see. You can actually get an advanced copy of it right now. Speaking of space, it has a lot to do with space. It's called Space is a Really Big Place, and you can check it out at the link up there. Or if you guys go to brandoncullum.com/space, you can pick it up. Let me know what you think. So other than that, let's dive into the interview with Eric. All right, welcome back to The Art of Show. We're hanging out with Eric Fan today, author extraordinaire, author and illustrator of some pretty amazing books. And we want to welcome you to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much, Brandon.
So are you both author and illustrator with your brother? Is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of unusual. I think there's like a few other sort of teams. There's a husband and wife I know that both do writing and illustrating together. But
yeah,
it's a little unusual to have two people doing both. Usually it's one author and an illustrator, but yeah, to have two people doing the art, it's kind of unusual.
That's good. And Terry, is that your brother's name?
Yeah.
Are you the oldest or the youngest?
I'm a year and a half younger.
Okay.
So we're pretty close in age.
So will he pull the older brother card on you at all and be like, hey, I think we should go to this direction, or I don't like this design or anything?
Oh, we both do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
We're kind of past the the older brother, younger brother thing. And and we're so close. I think we were kind of like twins growing up in a weird way.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, our family moved around a lot, so we kind of relied on each other, I guess, as friends, because you're kind of being constantly moving from one place to another.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, did I see you were born in Hawaii? Was that right?
Yeah, in Hawaii.
But you guys moved around. What were your parents doing as you were growing up?
My dad, he's a philosophy teacher, so he was finishing his PhD. So I guess he was still getting his PhD when we were in Hawaii. then he got various sort of teaching positions around the U.S.
Okay.
And then he finally got a full-time teaching position in Toronto, which is how he ended up in Canada.
Gotcha.
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you remember much from Hawaii when you were growing up?
No, because I've been back, but I was pretty young when we actually moved. I think I was about 3.
Okay,
So
cool.
yeah, and then Terry was born in just outside Chicago. My other brother was born in Florida, and my sister was born in Ohio, so Cleveland, Ohio. So
Oh, wow. So all over.
yeah, it's kind of like being in an army family where you're moving.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, so was art then? Was it always kind of part of your life? Did you just grow up drawing?
Yeah, definitely. When we were little, it was a big part, and we were encouraged by our parents a lot to draw. So that was cool. I mean, we did like a picture book before we could even read with me and Terry about dinosaurs, and our mom did the text, and
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah, we still have it. It's like this. It's pretty cool.
That's real cool. So you guys have been illustrating before you could even write. That's perfect.
Yeah, if you can call it illustration.
That's good. So as you guys were growing up, were the things that you were into drawing? Was there stuff that you kind of gravitate towards?
When I was little, it's pretty classic stuff. I mean, dinosaurs. We did a lot of we turned our bedroom into like an undersea world, so we did like fish and whales all over the walls and
Oh, that's cool.
stuff like that. Then we went through a big Disney phase of like copying Disney characters. And
Were there like kids books that you were reading at the time that you just loved?
yeah, I mean, I remember our dad used to make up stories, which was cool. Like he would create these stories about these elves, but as far as picture books go, like Where the Wild Things Are,
Hmm.
and I remember that was probably my favorite book at the time when I was younger, and we asked for it to be read to us every night, and then there was like Richard Scarry, Dr.
Hmm.
Seuss, yeah.
Those are good. Those are just good. Well, you can definitely see a little where the wild things are. I feel, especially
Oh,
in
yeah, definitely.
the monsters in the darkest dark. It's so cool.
Yeah,
So then, was it Ontario College of Art and Design? Is that where you went to school?
that's right. That's
And
right.
and was that for what would you major in?
I took general studies, so I did take illustration, but it's like a broad category of things you take. So I took sculpture, film, photography, drawing, design, like a little bit of everything.
Were
So
there Yeah, were there any projects when you were in school that kind of stuck out to you, or any things that you worked on that you just loved?
um, we did some fun like experimental films.
Hmm.
I did also like a storyboard that was kind of like, looking back, it was kind of like a picture book. We had to take like a song and do a storyboard of it, and I did this imaginary sort of world, and it is kind of reads like a picture book in a way.
Okay, gotcha. And so in storyboard, not storyboarding, but writing scripts and everything, that hasn't was that part of your story as well? Did I see that?
Yeah, that for after we graduated, we did that for about 10 years, trying to get a spec script picked up in Hollywood. We had an agent in Hollywood for a while.
Okay.
Um, yeah, just there was like interest, but then and there was always like a carrot in front, and I don't. So we did that for a while, and then just yeah, and then I eventually circled back into to doing illustration.
So you said that was 10 years that you're going after that?
Yeah, yeah.
What was
So
that? What was that like for that 10-year period of going after that dream?
it was a roller coaster because there'd be like good news, and then everything it would just be up and down all the time. So um, yeah, it was frustrating, but it was also, when I look back on it, it was kind of a good time because it was. I mean, I was working full time
Mm,
at another job, but to have that sort of creative dimension in your life still, that's always like that's I've always kind of had that even when I've been working
mm.
at other jobs. So yeah, it was exciting, and we
That's
got to work with one of our heroes, Dan O'Bannon,
okay.
before he
Cool.
passed away. So
Real cool. But then you said you got back into illustration.
yeah, and I mean, I was always kind of drawing on the side part time, but getting back into it in a real way, like sort of happened by chance. I saw an article in the newspaper about threadless.com. I don't know if you know, it's like a t-shirt site.
Yeah, yeah. Is that where you can do not print on demand, but like you can submit your designs and then you can like buy different artists and stuff? That's cool.
Yeah, it was crowdsourced, so you
Okay.
put up a design and people would vote on it, and I guess that's when I started getting a bit of confidence back as far as my drawing, because you're getting people commenting on your work, and then when you get a design printed, that was pretty gratifying.
Yeah, what was it like, or what was kind of your first design that you put up there as you were the kind of hit?
Yeah. I mean, I went through a period of putting up designs that were awful.
Okay, yeah.
It didn't do very well, and then I put up one called the Helium Menagerie, which was like a balloon seller with these animal-shaped balloons, and that one got printed and it got a good response. So I think that helped me sort of hone to what sort of subject matter that I did resonated with people. So yeah, that was a good experience. And then Threadless eventually partnered with Society 6, which is a print-on-demand site, and that's actually how we got our children's book agent, because she saw our work online and contacted Terry, and then subsequently we both ended up working with her.
That's
so it's like a circular route, but you never know what's gonna.
That's so crazy, yeah. So you were as you're submitting those illustrations, and you get that, I guess, a phone call or an email from an agent. Was that kind of out of left field? Like, was that even on your radar? Like, kids' books could be something that we do.
It was totally. I mean, we'd thought about, like when I was younger, with my younger brother, we had actually sent out a couple of picture book ideas, but not in a very professional way. We were young, and we would just send these manuscripts, and we got some okay like feedback and response, but nothing like actually having an agent. And so that it was completely out of left field.
What were those conversations like when, I guess, you first heard that they would at least be interested? Like, was it just on a picture? Like, did they come with you guys with like, hey, we think there's a story that you could do, or like, we just love your style? Like, what was that like with your agent?
She contacted Terry, and she loved his. He had actually done one other book he'd done the chapter illustrations before he had an agent, for a book called Rooftoppers.
Okay.
And so I think Kirsten, our agent, she had seen that. She had seen his work on Society 6 and thought there was something there that he could work in that field because of his style. And so she contacted him, and then she asked if he had any contacts in the industry, and he mentioned that the art director that he'd done Rooftoppers with, Lizzie Bromley, she works at Simon Schuster, that they had a good working relationship. So Kirsten said, well, if you have any picture book ideas, like I could send them to her. And so we had done like a design, which was one of our first collaborations, that was actually called The Night Gardener. And it was just a standalone image of the owl tree and someone and the gardener working on it. And so she sent them that, and we did like a little, because we always thought maybe there was a story that could be expanded from that image. So she sent that one image and like a little story synopsis, and Lizzie showed it to Christian Trimmer, who's an editor there, and they both liked it. And then then it all happened very quickly. Then
That's cool. So So
Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. So the image with the owl, was that something that you had put on Threadless? Was that where they saw that?
Yeah. We'd done an illustration. Then we said, oh, this might maybe make good T-shirts. So we submitted it on Threadless, and then
that's cool.
So it's pretty crazy. And I mean, we were flabbergasted that they wanted to do the book, and then it was a whole new sort of anxiety of never having done a picture book before, not really knowing anything about it as a format. So it was a learning curve, but they were both great as far as kind of guiding us through that.
Yeah. So when did you get, I guess, not the approval, but like the go ahead on this project? When was that?
That would be 2015.
Okay.
And in the summer. So so relatively recently.
Yeah. And because Night Gardener came out, was it February of last year? Is that right? 2016?
Yeah. 2016. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So, I mean, you guys had it sounds like a few months to turn around the illustrations. Is that right?
Yeah, we had a bit. I mean, it's sort of we had a bit longer. We had less time actually on the Darkest Dark. That was a very short turnaround,
Okay.
but we had a little bit of time on the Night Gardener.
So definitely, you guys are the first brother pair I've talked with. But then, like you mentioned, like we've talked with some folks that are authors, illustrators, or even if they're both illustrators, but they usually work on different designs.
Right.
But I was saying, are you guys working on even some of the same pieces? Like you guys are kind of finishing each other's work? Like how does that even work working with your brother?
Sometimes I mean, we will like work directly on the same image sometimes, but I mean, because we live relatively close together, but more often we'll do a rough and then we'll sort of divide it up depending on the image. And I may draw some parts and he may draw some parts, and then we composite it in Photoshop after. So that's kind of our process. And
Yep.
then it'll go back and forth and we'll refine it or change it. But yeah, it's
So
just
yeah. So
sorry.
are you working traditionally mostly? It sounds like.
It's kind of 50-50. We start traditionally, we do a drawing and then we bring it into Photoshop and we color it in Photoshop. So it's kind of a combination of traditional and digital.
Gotcha. So where was there a kernel for the idea of the story? You mentioned that illustration, but like, I guess the whole narrative, was that something you guys kind of had in the back of your minds as well?
Yeah, I mean when she asked us if we had any, like we pitched a couple ideas, but that one seemed to be kind of strong, and just that image. I don't know. I guess we just sort of looked at it and then wrote out a synopsis, and that was the gestation of it.
That's so cool. You, I feel like I'd read an interview where it talked about a lot of your art, you kind of gravitate towards the small and the big, like that
Right,
juxtaposition together. And I mean, that's throughout the whole book, but
right, right.
would you look back, is there kind of where has that come from? Or has that just kind of come out naturally as you've grown?
I think it's from yeah, and that was an old interview. Wow, you've done some research, but yeah, I think it's the idea of like especially doing picture books, but even prior to that, is I met like one of my favorite places when I was a kid was going to the museum, and everything's so big and
Mm,
you're small, and that sort of juxtaposition of scale and that sense of wonder about
mm.
of being in front of all these amazing giant things is I think that's where that sort of comes from.
Yeah. I mean, that's, gosh, that nails, the Night Gardener. Did you guys put yourself in the book, or like, did you imagine yourself as any of the characters? Because I mean, you have tons of the cities coming out.
Yeah, I kind of wish I had. We did put some of our friends and family in the book, but
Okay, cool.
yeah, and the little boy William's kind of based off of our nephew Ronan.
Okay.
Um, yeah, our mom's in there. Our friend Bianca Green is in there. Who else did we put in? Our little niece Juliet is in there. So yeah, so
Yeah. So when you guys did that, do you tell them beforehand, like, hey, you're going to be in this book, or is it like a surprise? Like, hey, look at that guy right there. That's you.
I actually paid him because he's kind of a mercenary little. So I said, can you sort of just for reference, I needed some poses and
Oh,
stuff.
so William, so the main character.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's
and
awesome.
and he was pretty excited to be in a book, but I think he was more excited about getting paid.
Yeah, I
So
can
yeah,
imagine you had that next day at school. Hey, guess what? I'm a model now and I'm in a book and I got paid for it. That's awesome.
yeah,
That's real cool. Well, so not only did you guys have The Night Gardener come out in 2016, but you also worked on The Darkest Dark. Was that in the fall when that came out? Fall
yeah,
last year? Okay.
yeah,
So how did that come about? Because that just seems like, was that something
yeah,
where that his fixed folk contacted you or?
yeah. It was actually our agent, if I'm remembering correctly, our agent Kirsten had met up at a I think it was ALA with an editor who's in Toronto, Tara Walker. She's a publisher now actually
Okay.
at Penguin Random House, and she had this Hadfield project which had been sort of on the table for a while. They were still looking for an illustrator, and I think Kirsten showed this was before the Night Gardener published, but she showed her some images from it, and she was like, "Huh, that maybe they'd be good for this project." So I think she passed it on to the Hadfields, and they loved our art, and it just, yeah, just again serendipity. It just sort of came together.
That's cool. So was that a story that they had written that you got, or was there
Yeah,
collaboration at all with that?
yeah, no, they had written the story. It's um, based on like Chris's life. So yeah, it's basically sort of a retelling of how he decided to become an astronaut. Um, yeah, and he worked with another writer, Kate Fillion, and together they sort of put together the text.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you guys got that script, since you had worked on your own story, what was it like, or how did you guys kind of interpret his vision and what to bring to the text?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was different because it was more collaborative in a way because we were showing them stuff and they would give us feedback. And it's unlike doing your own story. There's like the whole dimension of you're working with a celebrity and someone amazing.
Yeah.
So it's this sort of intimidating experience, but exciting. And then there's documentary elements, there's autobiographical elements. So, and they actually brought us when we were still working on the dummy of the book. They invited us up to their cottage on Stag Island where the story actually takes place. And so that was a great resource and kind of a turning point, getting to know them a little better, seeing the cottage where he watched the moon landing, seeing his parents' house where he grew up or where he would spend his summers there, and his actual bedroom. So we drew a lot from that as far as trying to get some of that sort of reality into the book.
Yeah. So where did the idea of the dark or the monsters, was that something, notes that you guys have been given, or is that something you kind of brought to it?
We brought that to it. We were trying to think of, like, initially we were just going to do shadow shapes on the wall, and then we wanted to bring, like, is there some way we can sort of personify his fear of the dark in a fun way?
Yeah.
That's sort of, that's maybe something more within our wheelhouse of bringing some sort of imagination to it in that way. So yeah, so that was one of our contributions to the story.
Yeah, they were cool, and I love how they kind of turn as the story's going, almost to like they're part of the journey with him, like as
Right.
like an audience. I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
So a lot of your stuff, or you and your brother's stuff, feels pretty retro, and that, especially since it almost feels like, I guess, a period piece, especially during all the
Right.
Apollo missions. So what was it like working on? I mean, you had like clips of like TV, of like the moon landings, all that kind of stuff. What was it like incorporating all that into the book?
It was cool. I mean, it's different than anything we'd done before. But I was always fascinated with that sort of era and the moon landing and my own memories of when the moon landing happened. So yeah, that was kind of cool. And I mean, I think that's one of the first, when we read the text and immediately you're sort of trying to think of images. And I remember the part in the text where everyone's like gathered around the TV and
Yeah.
they're watching the moon landing. And immediately I could see how that could be like or at least I saw that sort of scene in my mind. So then, you're sort of, you have to feel like you're connecting with the text and that you can bring something to it, I think, when you're considering doing projects. So yeah, all that sort of moon landing stuff was definitely something that attracted us.
What was it like once that book came out? And I guess because I've seen a few videos of him kind of reading it, and he's amazing on stage. But do you ever get, like, I guess maybe the first time he went through it with illustrations, were you guys around, or did you kind of know what he thought?
God, let me think back. Yeah, I mean, he had sort of, when we'd submitted final art, he'd sort of commented and said he loved it. And then I think when the book came out, like when you actually see the physical book, it's always that kind of different experience. And yeah, and he was thrilled with it, which was really gratifying. I mean, that's what was probably the most important thing, is that they be happy with what we'd done. So yeah, so that was great. And he's amazing. Like, he's so good at talking about the book and reading the book, and he's amazing.
That's so cool. Did I hear somewhere where he took you guys up flying with him in like a small Cessna?
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. We took off from the island airport, landed in I think it was Edenvale Airport,
Okay.
and then on the way back he said, "Do you want to fly the plane for a while?" And I was like, I'm scared of flying as it is, but I said I can't pass this up. Like,
Yeah.
so I flew it with him sort of as my co-pilot for like 10 minutes on the way back, and that was an experience because I thought it would be like the plane's going to fly itself, and
Right.
you just kind of sit there with your hands on the controls, but you actually have to course correct and and there's always like constant adjustments. So yeah, that was. And then at one point he turned back to Terry and said, "Your brother's flying the plane." And I think Terry probably had a heart attack. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so good.
That was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So what's it been like? Because I mean, you guys have had two amazing books that came out last year, and I will get to you in a second. Now you guys have a lot coming down the pipe. But I guess looking back, you had that 10-year stretch where you guys were trying to make it. Then you're posting to Threadless, and then now you're sitting next to a world famous astronaut and is writing picture books for him. Like, what's that journey been like for you guys?
I don't know. I don't even know if I can describe it because it's kind of overwhelming. Like sometimes you just sort of forget it and you're just doing the work and and you kind of take for granted. And then sometimes you sit back and say, wait a minute, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, my life 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, my life now, it's just, it's like, it's a dream come true, and it's just overwhelming, really.
What's it like to be able to share it with your brother, since that's what you guys are both doing?
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the best parts is that you have someone that has taken that sort of journey with you, and it's like doing the artwork. You have that sort of it's that collaboration where you can rely on the other person, or you can, when you sort of fall down, they're there to pick you up, and vice versa. So it's been great in that way.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be even more overwhelming if it was just if I was on my own doing it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so sweet. So what do you guys have coming down this year, 2017, and in the future? Do you guys have some projects that you're able to talk about?
Yeah, we just finished illustrating a book called The Antlered Ship, which was written by Dashka Slater. So we just submitted final art for that, and pretty happy about that. And then so we're started working on, and that'll be The Antlered Ship will be fall 2017, I believe.
Okay.
And then we've started work on our next book that we wrote, which is called Ocean Meets Sky, that'll be published through Simon Schuster as well.
Okay.
And then after we're doing a book called Scarecrow by Beth Ferry, and that'll be probably 2018, 2019 maybe.
Okay.
So so it's exciting.
That's cool. Now, is this your full-time job now? Like, are you still working?
Yeah. Now, since we did The Night Gardener, I've been working full time doing this, so that's great.
Yeah. What's it like not having to do this kind of stuff on the side anymore?
Oh, it's great. It's like I said, it's a dream come true, and not something I could have imagined. I mean, Terry had sort of paved the path a bit because he had. Even before the picture books, he had quit his full-time job, and was working in art full-time. So I was kind of working towards that. I just wasn't, I didn't quite have the nerve to jump in completely, but I definitely, he sort of paved the way, and I knew that it was something that you could do. So
that's so cool. Well, thank you for hanging out with me. I got a couple questions that we love to ask everybody that we have on as we kind of wrapping up. And I think you've mentioned, you might have answered the first one already, but you said, so Where the Wild Things Are was a book that super influential on you, and Dr. Seuss. Are there any
Yeah.
other now that you kind of look out there that maybe other folks that you'd love to collaborate with, or other folks' work that you guys just love that's putting out there in the kids book world?
Oh, I mean, there's so much. It's like it's an amazing time to be working in picture books, but there's so much talent. I mean, just a few days ago, we went to see the Osborne collection, which was our friend Sydney Smith, who did Sidewalk Flowers, which is I thought was an amazing book. And so he set that up. It's like they have a collection of old children's books, and I brought my copy of Sidewalk Flowers for him to sign, and he did a little drawing in it, which was amazing. But there's so many artists that are phenomenal. They All Saw a Cat was another one that blew me away, and Isabel Arsenault. Like, even in Canada, there's so much talent.
Yeah, Isabel, her name keeps coming up as I'm talking with folks with her art. She does amazing stuff.
She's incredible. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, good stuff. Well, what's the best place for folks to find you guys if they want to keep up with the work you guys have coming out for the future?
I guess we're on basically like Facebook, Eric Fan Illustration or Terry Fan Illustration, Society 6. You can find our work. We have a website, Fan Brothers. And Instagram, of course, Twitter.
Sounds good. Well, good stuff. Well, I appreciate your time. You guys are doing some amazing stuff, and it's I'm super excited that there sounds like a lot more books coming down. So,
well, thanks so much, Brandon. It was great. Yeah, it was great talking to you.